Good morning, a very warm welcome to our event. I'm Dinu Bumbăci, I'm the advisory leader of PwC in Romania, and I will be your host for the event today. We have put together, but before that, just a short video until you see it. We have put together an agenda which builds on the essentials of finance transformation. We will talk about technology, processes, and people, the three pillars which can no longer work one without the other. The agenda today builds on the three pillars which I mentioned. So after a very short introduction on how finance transformation contributes to generating value to the companies, we will have three deep dives. The first one will be in technology, which has completely transformed the way we work and also live, and is now really at the core of finance transformation. Secondly, we will talk about process efficiency, which is an old-timer of finance transformation, but increasingly important in the current business context because the pace of transformation of the business is such that finance processes need to evolve or even anticipate such change. And lastly, we will talk about the people transformation, which is these days one of the most challenging parts of the transformation given the rapid pace of change. And I was reading numerous studies which were indicated that at the current pace of transformation, I think it's unlikely that universities will prepare the students for the jobs of tomorrow. So it's an increasing role of the business to build such skills and competencies which otherwise cannot be accommodated by the traditional schools. We will start with a poll, just to warm up. It's not a poll for the elections. We are not talking about this, so be careful what you vote, though. So the poll will be launched. How do I start? Okay, Menti, so just scan the code. We wait just a few minutes for you to... I think the results, we have numerous surveys. We surveyed global CEOs in PricewaterhouseCoopers, global CEOs and CFOs on various topics. And I think here we have a selection of some of the answers related to how finance transformation affects the businesses. We have 17, 18, 20, so we wait a few more minutes. And I selected three questions on which we will take your polls. So, as CFO of the company, what is your top priority? And I think free text, top priority related to finance transformation, though. Systems, people, efficiency, business partners, value creation, digitalization, simplification, very interesting. So I think the three most, or the three of the most responses are around digitalization, efficiency, and people, which are indeed the main pillars of finance transformation, as we were discussing earlier. And if we count UK and US, spelling digitalization would also be even higher. I think just to moving to the next one, as CFO of the company, can we move to? Yeah. When do you plan to accelerate digital transformation? Just speaking about the first pillar. Already started next year, in the next 1 to 2 years, or later on? So as expected, this is an imperative. We can no longer wait. I think businesses which will not transform or digitalize will soon lose any competitive edge. So I think it's a no-brainer, this one. Moving to the next one, because digitalization is not just for the sake of digitalization. How much savings do you think that process automation, for example, can bring to your organizations or has already brought to your organization? It very much depends on the stage of digitalization in each of your companies, but we have a concentration around 10 to 20%. Now, looking at how your global peers or CEOs responded, at the 3 questions, the middle top one, almost half of the CFOs said that the top priority would be around building predictive models and scenario analysis capabilities, which are very much linked to how finance is partnering with business to model the future. Half of the CEOs plan to accelerate. I mean, we even have indicated the percentages or the 4 potential answers, but half of the global CFOs say that they plan to accelerate digital transformation using data analytics, artificial intelligence, automation, and cloud solutions. And if you look at the savings that can be achieved through automation, I think they indicate something like 30 to 40%. But a very important point here is not just automation for the sake of automation, but also behavior change. So I think savings cannot be achieved unless behaviors are equally changed. And if we speak about behaviors, we speak about also the jobs of the future, because some skills can be acquired, but some others may be more difficult to acquire, which may mean that we have to shift generations in the workforce. Which are the value levers or drivers of finance transformation? Finance is an integral part of the business. A global former CEO of Danone said that strategy without finance is just numbers, but equally, strategy without finance is just dreaming. So finance is an integral part of the strategy. And finance transformation achieves the full spectrum or touches on the full spectrum of roles within finance, from compliance steward or finance operator to pragmatic strategist and trusted advisors of the business. Business is transforming, and so should finance, as this is the driver of strategic value. We all need to be visionary on how the finance function will actually look in the future and anticipate such shape in order to be ready when the business needs that. We need to increase the efficiency of service delivery, and that can be achieved, we know very well, through automation or standardization of data and reporting. But equally, we need to contribute to the business with data-driven analysis and scenario planning. And if you remember, this was the response which was given by almost half of the global CFOs, that they do need to be ready for data, for scenario analysis and data analytics to predict, if you want, or to validate some of the business models. But even more important than that, I think we all need to be proactive in making the change happen, because in the end, I think you know very well that the tendency of people in general, and that's part of human behavior, is to put our heels in the ground and then find 1,000 reasons why it was far better to do what we did before. But that will not move us forward. We now move into
It's really important to understand that it's not about going digital for digital's sake. It's about having a business strategy that's enabled in a digital world. What that means is whatever the organization's values are should still be at the core of what that organization is about.
That's a brief introduction for the technology bit. And technology in itself, is it a driver for change, and why should the finance community focus on IT? We will explore the rise of digitalization together with our guest from AWS, Gianni Romolo, head of CE expansion in AWS, and he will speak shortly on the stage. And Gabi Voicila, my fellow partner who heads the technology consulting in PwC Romania. So Gabi, over to you, please, and Gianni.
Thank you, Dino, and welcome to all our guests here. So, yeah, just to answer to the question that Dino was asking, is technology a driver for change in itself, and the finance community should focus on it? And the answer is complicated, but I think it used to be a focus in itself years ago to say, yeah, we have a deprecated infrastructure, we need to change it, we have to invest in our data center. But those years are gone. I'm a technologist, a computer science professional, and I can tell you that it is very hard, if not impossible, to sell technology purely. So that is not what was happening in the last years or so. And the reason is that the world is actually facing, and your organization are facing, a lot of unknowns and disruptors. And as you see, 45% of the CEOs we surveyed, they think that they cannot survive without a significant business reinvention model. And that's, I think, very important and shows a lot, because you have now, besides the things related to geopolitical, you have the rise of AI and robotics. You have a choice between digital and physical commerce. And those are very important elements that make you think, okay, how can I do change my business so that I can absorb all of these disruptors? And all of this comes at the same time. Many of the organizations have the need to create new revenue streams, and that should happen very fast, within 3 years. So this is what our survey shows, which again is very relevant. Another important aspect is that your customers, and also our customers, they tell us, okay, we want transparency, we want to have more, and we want to have it faster. So how do you do that with a business model that hasn't changed for the past 30 plus years? I think the answer is that you have to reinvent yourself. Otherwise, you cannot ride the wave of digitalization and changing the consumer and the customer behavior. As you can see, many of these clients are expecting everything as a service. So we are not talking about platform as a service. They want everything in an app. They want everything at the fingertips of their mobile phones. They want to do it now, and they want to have it customized. And that's very important. So how can you do that? And this helps me, Dino, to come back to the point. Technology used to be a driver in itself. It wasn't for many years now, but because of the disruptors, because of the change in behavior of our customers and your customers, that brings a new imperative. How to make personalized services faster, more and obviously less costly, which is where technology is. And this brings me to the point where we have Gianni here continuing the presentation. But technology can be either a pure implementation to help achieve those imperatives you have seen on the previous slide. It can help you drive a functional transformation in your finance department. You want to have a better back office, better middle office, lean processes. Technology can support that. You don't do the change because the technology is new. You do the change because you need something as a benefit for organization. And if you need to do or to reinvent your business model, either you do it organically or inorganically. For example, you want to buy one of the players on the market, you have to integrate, technology comes there, or you have a different vision and you want to change your business model to something differently. I mean, in the past we have had such things. If you think that Nokia used to be a lumber company, also producing tires, they went from that to mobile phones. They were very successful. Then they missed the trend. They were almost going bust, and they are trying to come back ever since. So that's the bridge I'm making between what Dinu presented before and how we work as a firm. We work a lot with strategic partners, and today we have invited AWS, and Gianni will continue the presentation to discuss about hopefully some of the points where will relate to what I presented, because we didn't talk before, so let's see.
This is an amazing segue. I couldn't have a better introduction. Thank you very much. I think I will use this other one so I can get my both hands free. Okay, so you can still me here, just a second. Okay, so let me do a little bit of an introduction. This is absolutely an honor for me to be here, and also a pleasure. It's also a bit emotional for me because it's my first time in my AWS career that I'm actually talking to an audience made of CFOs and financial profession. I was one of those 5 years ago. So I do truly understand your background. I truly know what you're dealing with on a daily basis. So it's absolutely something that I can relate with. And I'm still part of the team, and that's how I feel it. So absolutely a pleasure. And obviously it's the first time also in my presentation and in my, I would say, speeches, public speeches, that I don't need to worry to put KPIs on a slide. Usually I get feedback saying, there are too many numbers. I mean, that's bread and butter for you. So I hope that that is not going to be overdone. So my role in AWS, I've been with AWS innovating with customer and for customer for the last 5 years. I'm responsible for the expansion market of Central Eastern Europe, meaning all those markets where we don't have a physical presence yet, like Central Eastern Asia, like the Adriatics, Hungary, where we start to open an office, and Ukraine. I'm a sales manager by function, and also, I work at the intersect between business development and sales. But as well, I've got, I would say, a quite determined background as a CFO. And I was working on quite a few integration plans in the past. So what are we going to look at today? It was an amazing segue what was Gabi introduced before, because actually without coordinating, it touched probably 80% of the point that I'm going to talk about today. So fantastic. And I mean, I want to just actually frame and visualize for you why the digital transformation should matter to you. I think by now it's not a question why, it's more a question how and when. Why is not debatable anymore. Unfortunately, there are breakthrough technologies and changes that we need to embrace. It's pretty much these days I was hearing, just to give you an example, people talking about the generative AI. And my slide is not about generative AI, but just to do a parallel. And there were two CIO asking whether GenAI will replace people. And one of them, he gave a pretty smart answer. He said, GenAI is not going to replace people, but GenAI will replace people without GenAI. So if you are a person that embraces the GenAI and you have that capability, also that is the new trend. So you can see some KPI below that if you are actually moving to the cloud, because the cloud, we're going to actually explore how the cloud can facilitate your digital transformation, can make your organization much leaner with less CapEx, just variable cost. So variable cost, by definition, they're going to be scalable according to your needs, and as well as how you're going to increase, saving, how you're going to increase the opportunity of new product development, faster time to market. Because a CFO, a finance function, is absolutely strategic for the company. Is usually the right hands of CEO, the one that set the strategy and the mission. So the agenda today will be pretty much on three main slots. I would like to frame in your mind the business value of a digital transformation, okay? So with data point, with analysis externally, internally, because AWS has been on the market now for 18 years, since 2006, and we have got thousands of cases where we can prove and we can actually give you a post-rational explanation, looking at now versus when we started, where we are with financial sector, with telco, with manufacturing, whoever industry you want to point to. Then how we can improve the profitability, how we can improve actually the bottom line of your P&L. Because when you talk about cloud, often you hear about, reducing TCO. Well, that is quite limiting. There is much more we can do. And then obviously M&A. M&A is a bit a topic that it's a love and hate for me, actually. I've been in a couple of integration projects. I'm sure that some of you have been there. I still miss the sleep of those time, okay? Doing an integration, post-acquisition, is something really remarkable. You're gonna go through so much pain and so much tough, and actually the cloud can actually reduce massively that due diligence, that post-acquisition integration. And we're gonna look how with some example. But without further ado, let's look at the cloud business value. I wanna give you a general overview where the business value comes from in a digital transformation. So let's look at this analysis first. This is coming from IDC. IDC, for people like me or Christian, which is our country manager for AWS here in Romania. I'm sure that pretty much all of you know Christian. Basically, IDC is one of our important market researchers, one of the most important market researchers. They do analysis on a periodical basis, and they give quite a good insight. It's where all the hyperscalers look at when they look for external insight. So if I draw a pie, and I say, okay, 100% of my business value is this pie, but what this value is made from? So only 5% of it is related to reduction of TCO, total cost of ownership. Then you have got another wealthy 10% that is actually risk mitigation. Because there are many things as a customer that you embrace on a digital transformation that you don't need to worry anymore. Think about security, think about fraud, think about the most appealing technology that you've got on the market. We develop those and work backwards with customer, and we reinvent and reinvent on your behalf. As well as staff productivity. In the slide that both the esteemed speaker preceding me, they actually highlighted, staff productivity is key. It doesn't mean staff reduction. It means staff productivity, that you redeploy your employee on something that adds value. And we're going to look at how. And of course, business productivity, business agility, new product, new market to eventually integrate and absorb in and to expand. Me, I'm following Ukraine since 3 years, and actually they are going through a quite tough moment, as you can imagine. But most of the companies that they migrate with us, you know what you're looking at now? Expanding in Central Western Europe. Banks that have been fully digitalized with us, now because it's an app, because they've got all the product all available on the cloud, they can conquer new market like that. Of course, they need to obviously get a license for a bank in a new country and so on, all these legal things. But from an infrastructure standpoint, it's pretty much overnight. So, and this is actually our framework, the AWS framework that we have been developing the last 16 years. Again, we are pointing in cost saving. The cost saving is when you move from an on-prem infrastructure into the cloud, you're gonna reduce your capex. Your balance sheet is gonna be much lighter. You're not gonna have amortization and depreciation anymore, but you just got a variable cost. As any variable cost, increase and decrease based on your production, based on your needs. Staff productivity. Instead of having people focusing on day-to-day maintenance activity like security, like upgrade the service licenses, like upgrade how many times you have got these, upgrade your tools, upgrade your software. That is all going to manage for you. Operational resilience. You're not going to be suffering things like if your server is going to be down for 1 or 2 days, your organization is going to suffer massively about that. That is not going to happen with AWS because we have got data center, plenty of those in Europe where your production, your application are going to be running through, and we have obviously disaster recover things. There is always a duplicated copy somewhere. Okay, so you're going to never run out of your major application, major workload, IT workload. So you're not going to have unplanned disruption. Business agility. Of course, you can actually accelerate your time to market. You can think about inventory management. Okay, with tools that you have got like machine learning, actually copying it with a RIMA mean that they can actually build also the seasonality. You can put additional input. The inventory management of a manufacturing company or a retailer company is all going to be automated. We can give you that productivity. I'm coming from an industrial background. I'm coming from General Electric. That's where I was a CFO in. And you cannot imagine how much time we were spending in doing our forecast call. There was a forecast call within a small team. Then you had actually what we call a weekly update. Then you have the quarterly update. Plenty of people sitting around the table trying to intercept what our quarter would like. Well, all of these things these days, even in AWS, we do with machine learning. They're going to give you, because you have so many data integrated, they're going to give you specific by project, by usages, and so on, what is going to be your predictive outcome. Of course, human judgment is important. You still need to have, intelligent people overlooking at that process, but you don't need to actually spend hours and hours of your entire team just focusing on forecasts. And sustainability. Actually, moving to the cloud, you immediately, moving to AWS cloud, you immediately participate to our climate pledge. Amazon has created a climate pledge. We're going to be actually carbon neutral by 2040. And also, we aim to be water positive by 2030. What does it mean, water positive? Basically, all our data center, to cool down, they need water. Because they get overheated, but we are studying things like placing them, under the surface, under earth, so that you can actually take advantage of the geothermal, placing under the sea and things like that. We are studying things similar to this. Okay, just to give you a general overview. But now let's look at, for example, the financial sector. I'm trying to specialize a little bit more on the banks, because the world is immense, so you cannot know everything about everyone. Okay, so I tend to focus a little bit on FSI, and Also because in the current environment in Central Eastern Europe, we appreciate and we reckon that the banks are the ones that are going to be facing this digital transformation more immediate. There is not a traditional bank anymore. Usually it's all on the phone. Usually, there is a customized view of your saving, the product and things like that. The traditional banks are pretty much, I would say, these days non-existing anymore. So those are the first mover on the cloud. And basically, moving to the cloud, what we have realized, this analysis has been done by ELG. ELG is a world network of top decision maker. There is 1 million of associates in ELG that are CEO, CFO, CIO, and so on. That is an analysis that was done in 2003, and basically specific on FSI. We can do this analysis. We have a framework to do this type of analysis in AWS. If you need one of those, we can organize and we can follow up on it. But for example, what we have recognized that banks moving onto the cloud after 2 or 3 years, they will actually benefit from a reduced, time to onboard a new customer by 41%. KYC. Their application today to open a bank account, you scan your passport, you take your picture, and you send all of these, and you can do just by your phone. To open a bank account, I've been moving in many countries, and usually I had to have, even last when I moved to Germany, Munich, 5 years ago, a letter from my employer, my passport, I had to go to the bank twice, I have to get to, the registration to the local office, to the local city council and so on. These things now can be done in a matter of hours or even minutes, and they are quite reliable actually. Product innovation. With the technology, you can actually increase your time to market by 44%. Think about conceptualization of product. Think about even if you think about, we were at the Formula One. Ferrari is one of our most trusted partners. They use for actually to make the Formula One car computational model that are coming from AWS, because you need a lot of compute empowering. And this actually to create, to brand a new car that before it was taking matter of weeks, the aerodynamics now I think is down to 24 hours, something like that. Of course, there is reiteration and so on to run those models, but that's how faster it becomes. And reduction of application and transaction process. Again, on the bank, you have got a lot of underwriting decision and so on. So you have a lot of input that you can source from your ERP, from your customer database, for your CRM, and this can be reduced by 29%. Those are average numbers. And last but not least, risk management. And again, a reduction by 35%. In our framework, we talk about 30%. So this is an external data point. As I said, I'm not particularly concerned showing you all this data point because you are people dealing with numbers. The maths is the language of God, so I'm pretty confident that you appreciate how much of this is relevant and is important. And now I want to show you something else, okay? Where really, if you look at the P&L, where really your increased shareholder comes from, shareholder actually is not just about the P&L. So you can increase the revenue by actually presenting, by having a better time to market, as I was saying, acquiring new customer, being online and using those new platforms is potentially you can touch anybody, literally anybody that is using mobile phone, that is using internet and so on. And of course, you're going to have a much easier differentiation price. How many tools we have got online and now can do price comparison on product and so on. These are good insight. And the product mix, you can improve product mix. So this is going to take care, basically, is all the levers of the revenue formula. Revenue is function on quantity by price, and of course, the product mix. That's what you're going to touch by all of this. What about increasing, operational margin? You can reduce the cost of goods sold. As I said, if you variabilize your IT cost, actually, and you move it in a much more dedicated fashion attached to your product, well, by using economy of scale of an hyperscaler or going through the economy or going through the digital transformation, implicitly your variable costs, they're going to come down. Of course, you can reduce a lot of SG&A processes much faster, is by definition, so that you can concentrate more on your core activity. Computational model, increased insights like, machine learning or advanced reporting tools. You deal with a lot of reporting. We have QuickSight that is, of course, our own product that is similar to Power Pivot and all of these, but with a lot of other insight, because it's going to fish from our own data lake. Well, reporting is not going to be an issue anymore. How much time CFO spend on reporting and presenting to your peers? Presenting to eventually in a quarterly meeting or presenting external. Well, this is once that we define together a dashboard, you can actually, and yeah, we could show some many examples. You can actually define a dashboard that in a matter of a click is going to be updated timely, and we can update that report also with the help of generative AI, because you ask a question and it's going to give you the code. And eventually your analyst is going to implement new visualization. And of course, you're going to concentrate much more because you have got computational model and product definition and product conceptualization is going to be much faster. So your R&D, it cannot go without digital transformation these days. And of course, improved asset efficiency. You're going to get rid of all these servers that sometimes they present also with a lot of cost in terms of electricity running, with a lot of maintenance, with a lot of risk attached to that. What if anybody breaks in your data center? You have security guard, you have alarm, you have webcam and things like that. That is not something that you should worry anymore with the cloud, okay? As I was saying, and I didn't not specifically want to point to this line, inventory efficiency, everything, you can actually integrate our tools with an ERP, and obviously think about Ariba from SAP, for example, the payment, and so that you can actually improve your full chain of command with your vendors. Okay, so inventory efficiency, it comes like a default, and working capital efficiency, of course, yeah, because you eventually with all the insight, better decision, you reduce the unpaid receivables, you're going to optimize your AP, okay, so you're going to optimize with the customer, and obviously you reduce the inventory. So working capital is a formula that I used to use a lot in my previous life, is absolutely something that you can benefit from. So this just to give you a snapshot. I hope that I try to visualize where the value is really coming from, okay? There are many places, and there are obviously from a customer standpoint, as I say, customer experience, new product launch, agility, reduction risk. Here we look at our P&L and working capital and balance sheet as well. Now, how we can improve profitability, how we can improve the bottom line of our P&L. So, first of all, let's just for a change, let me give you some few other data points. But those data are mind-blowing. I really ask you to pay attention to just this data, okay? Today, the cloud spend worldwide is slightly short of 700 billion. 700 billion. And that's been growing in 2024 versus 2023 by 20%. It's astonishing. Okay, and we actually expect that it's going to grow at the same pace. Okay, but 1/3 almost of it, 27% of those cloud spend are actually waste of money, is inefficient spend. We have functions that are actually working because we are the most customer-focused company on earth, and we walk our talk. We have function in our company that they will sit with you, CIO, head of IT department, business line owner, CFO, and say how we can reduce your cloud consumption, how we can reduce AWS spending. Why? Because we want to pass down our economy of scale. That's how we work. It's pretty much like Amazon retail. If you have an issue with our product, send it back. We don't want to spoil, we don't want to create an issue on that. We really want to nurture and cherish our customer. But why? Because there is so much to do on the digital transformation that it's not just one application spend. For us, we work our journey synergically with you. And companies are focusing, majority of their time on reducing the cloud spend, okay? Which is right, but it's not the only things, because before in the business value, it's not just about cost. I was focusing quite a lot on increasing the gross revenue perspective, on actually creating new product, conquering new market. That's where we need to focus. And of course, 89% of CFOs, okay, to the question that before on Menti was actually asked, pretty much all of you answered that you are either already in the digital transformation or you're going to embark in 1 to 2 years, okay? And 89%, almost the full totality of CFO, they reckon that the digital transformation actually can create a new balance between reduction of cost and investing in growth. And it's amazing that these insights come from CFO and not other C-level. Because the CIO, the IT function, unfortunately, has been actually looked at often as a pure silos, as a pure cost center. No, there is a new way to look at digital and technology. It is actually a profit center if we use it properly.
Gianni, just to let you know
Sure.
that I'm being told that we are running out of time, so
Okay.
we have just a couple of minutes.
Okay, so basically, what I'm gonna quickly show you is a couple of other things. Our costs, they are absolutely scalable. Okay, you can moderate them, are variable, and the decision are gonna be they're gonna be decentralized. What about how the cloud is actually cloud is pretty much a linear function. So for each services we have got a specific measure of unit. So if you use our computing power, it depends on how our instance is large or is big, multiply for our rate. Of course, it's not a pure linear function. If you are moving with us, the more you move with us, the actually you're gonna benefit from discount, investing from our side, increased commitment, and so on. What I want to show here is that moving to the cloud, you're going to flip that chart. Today, the IT function are focusing 80% of their time on maintaining the current status, the IT, whilst tomorrow, to keep the light on, you're just going to focus 20% of your workforce, and the remaining is just on innovation and modernization. Let's go through quick. I mean, this is part of our day-to-day business. We sit with you, we're trying to remove idle function. So I've got 5 more minutes? Okay, thank you. So remove to idle function, think about activity that are not used during night. Your server, they're gonna keep running, your CCTV, they're gonna keep running, your security guard, they're gonna still be there. With our tools, basically, with the digital transformation, you can switch on all these instances during night, okay? And if you ideally think about a P&L of a bank P&L, your incoming is coming from interest and fee, by lending money, and fee and commissions, okay? But your outcome, basically, sorry, your cost is mainly, generated by personal cost and depreciation amortization. So how we can focus on those? As I said, we need to redeploy the employee activity so that we can have staff productivity. So create a cloud center of excellence, so people that are really working on that function, so that you can benefit from innovative activity. So the IT function can focus on modernization and innovation, so that you can have the cloud as a real asset. And agility, new market, new product, and so on. Cloud as a game changer. And also think about actually material cost and other things. Think about, like electricity, facility cost, and so on. You're going to get rid of all of this. That's why a digital transformation is not just total cost of ownership. A digital transformation is much wider. And you're going to eventually get rid of third-party licenses, because you don't need all these server license, external license, and so on, because you are reducing your debts technology, okay? Your tech debts, basically. But just few hints on M&A. okay? Because it is an important integral part of a company life. I'm not gonna rush through this slide, but I wanna concentrate on a couple of concepts. Roughly 10 to 15% of M&A that gets announced, actually they don't go through. They don't get signed. Why? Because the due diligence is not satisfactory. You will not buy a company where you don't understand how the process works, how the IT is working, and so on. Mainly due diligence. And out of those that they go through, let's say 85 to 90%, only 15 or 20% are successful in the mid-long term. Why? Because integration. The integration is one of the most complex moments of a company life. You need to have two different entities that are coming together. You have these, you are very familiar with that, master service agreement, very expensive and very inefficient. Okay, keep utilizing, you know, the tools and the service of your prior owner. Moving to the cloud, first of all, you have things that they can be consolidated on the cloud immediately. Your due diligence is going to be much faster, much more reliable, and much more trustworthy. You can print out the cloud in a matter of seconds, all your flowchart of your IT infrastructure. It's there, and it's compliant with the GDPR, it's compliant with the 43 regulation out there. So you don't need to worry whether, but you do things compliantly. What about the reporting with the national bank, if you're a bank? Well, majority of our tool and processes are already compliant with those. Like if you are a manufacturing company, product company, are compliant with the California Product Act. They minimize the risk one of going live. Think about the consolidation vendor process. Very simple. But in real life, you need to match the two databases, see what is common, see what not is common, and most important, you need to make available the new vendor to the acquired company, and so on. This can be done in a matter of seconds on our things, because you upload all your data, you upload actually your KYC or your vendor, and so on. This can be available and accessible to all the company group. And post-closure value. Well, think about commonality of product. If you acquire usually a company, it's because you want to take the strategic advantage of the acquisition. This new product, this, there is a new market, there is a price strategy behind. Well, that it can be immediately available to your new group function. And in the CFO perspective, the most important things is that CFO, he gets in all of these fully involved. In some of the innovative actually approach, is not uncommon to see the CFO that holds also the IT organization. CIO start to report to the CFO because IT is such an integral part of your company strategy that cannot be siloed anymore. Okay, so I'll leave you with this thought. I hope that I left you with some thinking, and it has been absolutely a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Gianni, thank you so much. I'm sure you will be swamped over the lunch. We ought to do, just 1 second, we ought to do in the future a dedicated technology session only for finance. But I have a personal ask, because you're Italian, because you talked about Ferrari. Please tell Mr. Frédéric Vasseur that he's betting on the wrong horse by bringing Hamilton in the team and dumping Carlos Sainz. Please tell him. Right.
I wish I had that power. No, we just participate to some of the Ferrari organization event and so on. But on the Ferrari car, you can see our logo. It's one of the biggest logos, AWS. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianni. Maybe if you can stay a little bit, because I think we built about 5 minutes in each session to accommodate some questions from the audience. So if there is, or until you raise your hand to get the mic, one question, Gianni. I mean, indeed, the KPIs or the savings that you presented are mind-blowing. But what prevents, if you want, companies in moving to cloud? I mean, what's the biggest blockage?
I think it's a pretty easy answer, but the solution, the implementation is quite complex. It's people. So basically, to move to the cloud or to embrace generative AI, just to talk about something very relevant today, we need to spend together a lot of time educating people. This is not something to be scared about. This is something that we need to embrace, we need to appreciate, we need to be knowledgeable about it, and trying to work together the best way. Because obviously, if your organization, every single company is a people organization, okay? Even those, the most advanced digital technology company, even crypto company and so on, there is people behind that. So it's about education, it's about, not be afraid, and also is about regulation. Make sure that actually your company is safe within the cloud, and you're not actually risking any data leakage. And we can give you comfort on that. But the priority number one is about training. And we provide this, okay?
Yes, thank you very much. Behaviors are, as we discussed in the opening, a very important part of any transformation. One more question from the audience before we move to the next session. So one question on Ferrari, one question on barriers. Now moving to process efficiency. I said this is one of the old timers of finance transformation. I think process efficiency was on the agenda of the CFOs for a long time. Having in mind, however, the fast-moving environment and dynamic business climate, how can finance become a valuable driver in the company's growth? We will explore this area with my colleagues. I invite on the stage Monica Popescu, just to show that we also have a lot of diversity in our firm. I mean, if I look at the audience, it's primarily female-driven. Cristian Cortez, Radu Andrei, and Mircea Bosga, last but not least. So, over to you.
Thank you, Dino. There were a couple of more slides from Gianni, so I'll just try to surf through them. So we'll start with a short video.
Many organizations are responding to today's increasingly challenging and competitive business environment by investing heavily in large-scale transformation programs. Understandably, many leaders have sleepless nights when faced with the scale and complexity of transformation programs, because they often only have limited information on which to base their decision. The stakes are high.
So, maybe this is better. Okay, so to answer to Dinu's question, the answer is not that simple, and we're going to try to build it brick by brick in the upcoming sessions. But first, I would like to recap a little bit the status quo. So, being a finance community here, CFOs, we know that the CFO has many roles. So, after the financial bookkeeping, we have the financial management, the tax, basically the BI competence, financial planning and budgeting. So basically all of these roles and responsibility attract a lot of opportunities. So while we're going to go in tactical dimensions and how we can transform from a process efficiency standpoint, this creates basically the storm of opportunity and various pillars that we should explore. Now, with those roles and responsibility, and I'm sure that you find very appealing some of these pain points. So basically with the lack of data, missing a single source of truth, inaccurate and not on time reports, late decision making, and being perceived as not value adding, plus a lot of challenges with our, let's call it famous Excel ways of working and manual adjustments, drafts. So basically all of these challenges we'll try to address in the upcoming sections, and basically they are subject to the actual process efficiency and the transformation. So we're going to try to build 4 bricks to answer Dinu's questions. What are the 4 tactical dimensions and how we would like to surf through them in order to achieve process transformation? So first will be strategy and organization. The second will go through process optimization. We'll try to move forward to the finance tech toolkit. So we're gonna show and present a couple of technologies straight and tactical for the finance processes. And last, but of course not least, everything needs to be under a very robust governance, risk management, and controls. Okay, works. So basically from strategy and organization. Now 1/5 of the company through our surveys with global CFOs have a modern finance which is effectively supporting the business. So it's a value-added asset to the company. So this is important, like we were discussing in the beginning, how and when do we start the digital transformation. 34% of the companies, unfortunately, they are still working, they don't have this defined, and 12% they are in progress. But how does finance and how does the operating model needs to change in order to achieve this transformation? So as you can see on the screen, we need to change the current state. So basically the objective is to decrease and minimize time on the transactional activities. We need to increase the time and focus through all the technology assets and toolkits, basically how to maximize the value and how to bring insights. When these two get unlocked, basically you have room and you are improving the cost of finance as a percentage of the revenue, and some of our studies show that the top quartile companies manage to reduce between 0.5 and 1% basically the cost from the revenue, and you get a lot of opportunities and reinvestment areas. Now, modern finance, basically to transform it, it needs to go beyond some of the current layers. So you have the usual and traditional steward, and you have the operator. Now, as you can see, on one side, basically is how finance can become a trusted and a real business partner. So let's one step back on the steward. Basically, once we rationalize the controls, we have confidence and transparency in the data, and basically we are focusing on more value-added activities. So this is one lever that we should optimize as much as possible. Now, being the operator basically implies simplifications. We talked in the beginning, and I know that one priority when we did the Menti was on the simplification. So basically how to automate and simplify the processes. Now, after simplification, it's about scalability, and you will see in the upcoming slides also about the organization. Of course, there is a constant focus on continuous improvement, but if we go on the business partnering here, it's where it gets interesting. Basically, how we can minimize transactional activities, how we can be a trusted advisor, focus on real-time data, business insights, and basically how do we integrate performance management to support the business. So the longer that we get involved from a finance standpoint, we understand the actual business and we facilitate their focus on the business, not on basically manual efforts on the data, on other tools. This is where it gets value added. Now, another interesting element is how finance can become digital enabler. So we have seen this in experience with other projects, with other clients. So basically finance, and I think Gianni pointed out that CIO reports to the CFO. Basically finance is owning a lot of products, a lot of technology. So with together, and you'll see later on with the people transformation, how the finance functions get upskilled in order to to work in all the finance platforms. Of course, finance gets into a model where driving digital initiatives is also a priority, and we have seen this often, how implementing some of the finance platforms in terms of FP&A, in terms of consolidations, basically finance is driving this through the business and has the opportunity to change even the business processes. Now, from an organization standpoint, basically you will see, and yeah, we are living in a very dynamic environment, so I think all of us, we are seeing a lot of hybrid models, especially also after the pandemic, shifts in the paradigm, basically creating multiple delivery centers. So if we start at the top, of course, we have the corporate side. We have the global CFOs, the CIOs, the controllership, basically driving the strategies, the accounting policies, the standards top down. Now, if we look on the left side of the screen, we have the regional part. So the local business units, basically they drive the decisions, they are close to the actual business. We have the local commercial finance, we have process, basically we have experienced professionals there with business knowledge. But here it's where it gets interesting. Basically in the centers of excellence, which are more on the advisory side, they have both industry and finance knowledge. They are more targeted on, let's say, specific and value-added process like financial analysis, budget and forecast. They are close to the business, trying to create the relationship also with the vendors, with the customers. So after this center of excellence, which basically, like I said, it's a more strategic and tactical model and team, we are getting more and more, and we are all familiar with the global business services or with the shared service centers. And here is basically where this is the ability and the opportunity to unlock the actual results, the actual efficiencies, because this creates the opportunity of centralization, this creates the opportunity of standardization across the entire company. So more and more processes get centralized in this shared service center. You have the record to report, you have procure to pay, you have order to cash, payrolls. So here, and not only what we have seen as a trend in the last years, these service centers have evolved, and basically they are starting, if we now go back to the left, trying to get more and more activities, and they are transitioning center of excellence activities, more value-added roles, and basically supporting the regional and the local teams as much as possible. So this being said, if we look at this process standpoint, not only on the finance in the global business services, but also on the company processes, I would like to invite Radu to explain more on the process optimization side.
Okay, I'll try and use this one. It works. No, it doesn't. It does a little bit. Okay, so I'm assuming that's the button. Okay, so when we're looking at process excellence, we hear a lot of finance people. So what the risk is when we do process excellence is that we try to improve our own view of the business, and we often work in silos. If you look at the process you try to improve, finance may have one view, procurement may have one view, other departments which are involved may have a different view. So improving this in isolation may lead to conflicting goals, and you may not be able to achieve the full potential of process improvement, which is why I believe this improvement component should be addressed in what we call process excellence framework, which basically has multiple dimensions which all need to be taken care of. And you've got it here. You need to start with the vision and the mission. Yeah, you need to clearly define what you're trying to achieve, where you want to go, and that has to be shared with the entire organization. To be able to do a proper transformation and achieve process excellence, you also need governance. You need to be empowered by the organization. You need to be able to make decisions. You need to be able to go the way you need to go, and that requires mandate. Governance is also important. When you do process excellence, everybody needs to understand basically who takes decision, what decisions can be taken, how various stakeholders interact. And that's the foundational layer of the process excellence. Obviously, there's the methods and capabilities. And to be able to improve, you need to either introduce or strengthen, if you already have them, the methods, the actual tools, and the capabilities required to achieve the process excellence. This all needs to be embedded into a mindset of continuous improvement. It's very often we see organizations do an improvement once, but they're failing to push on that and to capture the further opportunities that arise. To be able to have that continuous improvement mindset, it all starts with the leadership. So organizations need a leader that is able to instill that way of working and that mindset. And obviously, that's done through culture and through improvement the people's skills. So people need to have those skills to be able to go through process excellence. And the subject is very wide. We only have a couple of minutes to address a couple of points. So today we thought to discuss a little bit about process intelligence and mining, which is one of the tools we've seen recently used more and more in process excellence. The traditional way of doing it, and we've done that quite a few, is, well, pretty much basic pen and paper. You go in, you're trying to understand what's happening in the end-to-end process you're trying to improve, then try to map it and identify the opportunities. But of late, we've seen the rise of automated, semi-automated ways of doing that, and process intelligence and mining is one such tool. So you start with the analysis part, but instead of just focusing on discussions and trying to understand what's happening, you look also at the data, with an increasing focus of the data. Nowadays, systems are able to provide a lot of information that can be used to drive the initial understanding and maybe generate some initial hypothesis on where improvements could lie. Once you do that, you can actually do targeted data-driven sessions on improving various parts of the process. And then obviously, once you get that, you can also do a benchmarking internal or external to identify quickly the bottlenecks, the improvement areas, which then you develop further into solutions that can be, okay, it's automated on this slide because it's a more recent one, but mind you, automation is not the only solution. Automation is not the only thing that can improve a process. There's still the good old-fashioned ways of improving how people actually do stuff rather than just providing them with a bunch of tools. Okay, and then once you do that, you get in the control part. So how does this process mining works? It all starts with the sources of data, right? And there's various sources of data, be they the ERPs of the day, SAP, Oracle, Salesforce. Though you need to identify first which are the sources of the data which relates to your processes. Once you do that, you extract the information, and honestly, the more standardized the tool is, the easier it is to extract. And if I'm linking back to the previous session, once you've got something which is standardized and works the same in a cloud environment with very little variations, it's very easy to actually do that extraction. There are tools which are custom built for specific solutions, and it's very easy to extract, for example, the O2C related information from such a tool. And even more so, once that environment is similar across different elements of the organization, different business units, it's even more easy to do it and to do benchmark between these organizations. Then you obviously load and transform your data into a process mining tool, and there are various on the market. I won't name names, at least not in this session. Then try to analyze using the embedded functionalities of the tool to get some insights. So what you do, you develop, or some tools already have developed some dashboard that support your analysis. They don't do it for you, despite what people think, but they do provide valuable insight which you can further address in subsequent sessions. One example from a recent project, so we did an order-to-cash analysis on a client's data, and when we originally started, the client said, oh, do I have a laser here? Yes. Yeah. So I'll switch to this one. I'll switch to this one. You never do this because you break the microphone. You do 210. Okay. I've learned that while doing rock concerts from my tech. Okay, so originally what the client said is, well, we have just one standard process, and that's everything you're going to find. But actually, when you start looking into all of the transactions and all of the variations, you start identifying these variations and these things which are not standard. Yeah, so everything, and that's actually a pretty nice picture because we said, okay, let's reduce the variability to a certain threshold. When you actually look at the whole process, you end up with a lot of lines here. So it looks like, well, it's not spaghetti, it's actually even worse. So based on this data and based on the insight we got from identifying these variations, we ended up pretty fast, because that's the thing, we ended up pretty fast and pretty consistently with some areas of concerns in the process. There were significant variations. I mean, every 6th other transaction went a different path, and that was something unexpected. But you get that type of information when you use a tool rather than just speak with the people and say, what are your variations? Well, we have 2 or 3 variants. No, you have every 6 transaction follows a different path. There was about 40% of the sale doors were blocked at the same point in the O2C process. A lot of the actions were performed manually, even though they were supposed to be performed automatically. Fortunately, there were some insights which also helped the potential for improvement, and we could see those right away. For example, there were a lot of non-standard process, but the standard process was pretty good and could have gotten a reduction of the processing time from that one. And there are also entities which process things in different way. Adopting a standard version would be easier. Or, for example, 48% of the reason that was blocking the transaction was the fact that the quantity was not confirmed. And that obviously requires further interviews, further analysis to be able to identify a solution for that. But to start with, instead of just starting with a sheet of paper, we started off with a pretty good understanding of the process and where the issues were into that one. Speaking about process understanding, and I don't have a slide on that, but I'll briefly touch upon it because it's something interesting I discussed the other day with my colleagues from Switzerland. What we do nowadays is to get the initial understanding what we call BPMN AI, which is basically trying to get an initial understanding either through a simple interview, which we record with the client, either through the existing documentation. We run that through our custom-built AI model. That model is able to extract actually the tasks from that discussion of those processes and put them in a format which can be then imported into a BPMN tool. So out of one discussion, or just processing a set of documents, you are able to get an initial version of the process map. Obviously, it's not perfect. Obviously, it can be improved, but it's a great starting point for this. And it's something we're looking forward to explore. And we still do the old-fashioned pen and paper. I mean, you can't replace that, basically. Interacting with people, with something in front of you, it's priceless. And I think that was the brief interaction on the process part.
So I know this works now. Okay. So as we spoke about 2 tactical dimensions, we're going to shift in the 3rd one. And I know it's not a very pretty slide and it's quite heavy. So I'll try to use also the laser. So basically, okay, we went through strategy, organization, and as Radu presented the simplification and standardization. So once we try to build the entire finance ecosystem, first of all, we need to set up the foundation. So basically the source systems. Even if we talk about SAP, Oracle, H&M, Charisma. So basically, once these are very clean, are standard, then it helps us to build on it. And the second level of build, it's on the operational planning. And here, as you can see, there are multiple technologies in the market. We have SAP Analytics, we have Anaplan, we have Oracle, OneStream, which can facilitate this operation planning from a business standpoint. Now, once we climb up the pyramid, basically we have these 2 areas. We have the planning and the forecast management reporting. Again, some of these technologies are streamlined to the source systems, and basically they have a lot of connectors. They have a very holistic and integration in plan with real-time reporting. So technologies like LucaNet, we have Tagetic, and again, you'll see Anaplan, OneStream can facilitate this process basically to drive the P&L, drive the allocations, the planning of the headcount, and the workforce. On the left side of the screen, we are getting into the actual close consolidation and investors reporting. So basically, this layer here with the statutory, with the group reporting, with all the reconciliations, the balance sheet, and the P&Ls, we are using pretty much, and we can leverage the same ecosystem of technologies here. And we will speak about one of them briefly. Okay, so basically, we spoke on the second dimension. We spoke about how we can become basically as finance professionals a true and trusted business strategic partner. So once we have these 3 layers here and these foundations, we get to the roof. And the roof basically comes with the reporting, with the analytics, with the insights-driven decisions, with the real-time reporting. And here you have from Microsoft, you have from Amazon Web Services, you have Alteryx, you have Tableau, Power BI. So basically the palette of technologies is quite high. So every one of them can be linked also with the platforms below and also with the source system. So what is important, and I'm coming back again, so we are seeing a trend in the last 2 years, about 13%, some more than half of the companies have shifted from spreadsheets, from Excel to more dedicated platforms, to real-time reporting. But you will see this also on our third section today, more than 50% of the company already upskilled their finance employees in order to be able to use these technologies to automate the processes. So, unfortunately, the time doesn't permit to go through all of them, even if that would have been a very interesting session, but we'll try to address a couple of them. So, the first one is quite a simple one, Alteryx. Maybe some of you have already heard about it. So, it's a very simple, it's an analytic process application, basically which permits every individual to be able to create low code, no code, so no programming skills are needed, and basically to prepare and design workflows to link various data sources, play and analyze huge databases. So one of the key benefits here is actually this consolidation and how they can easily bring all of those data sources, create, or either they can use off-the-shelf workflows or custom create on their own. So with a little bit of training, this can be achievable. So basically they can shift quickly from Excel basically to Alteryx. Another key benefit is how to get timely insights. So basically due to the speed and the accuracy, the efficiencies of Alteryx, you can get real-time reporting. And last but not least, collaboration. Basically, it links and it has embedded also a lot of functionalities of API connectors which can link to the data sources that we were presenting earlier. The second one, basically Workday Adaptive Insights. So this goes up a notch. It's a basically complex platform. It gets integrated and it gets past the usual headcount, the operation forecasting to a cloud-based solution. And it helps basically much more easier to take decisions, to consolidate figures, and to aggregate the results. Now, a lot of benefits here, we talk about organization scenarios. So we can embed in adaptive, you can use key drivers, even if you're talking about the planning and the budget progress. So you can have various analysis, various what-if analysis. It's a very collaborative platform, it gets interfaced and it has a lot of sources, not only between the systems, but also to the dimensions of the company, so it can get quickly and get scaled very easily between finance, business, HR, operations, IT, and so on. Data processing and also headcount planning are two of the key benefits. So like I said, increased speed in processing and also how to create models and scenarios. So planning and forecasting we have touched upon, but I think one of the, let's say, most valuable main features is also to have an effective and holistic, let's say, organizational reporting from the entire company. So basically how you can scale this from one process to another in order to have one platform, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, it's embedded also with workflow capabilities and how to streamline and digitize much easily the finance and operations processes. And for the third one, I will invite my colleague Monica to present and to detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Good morning also from my side. I'll share a little bit more insights into Workiva, which is another strategic partner of PwC, and we see multiple benefits from implementing together with Workiva its reporting solution. And I'll stay a little bit longer on it because, as you will see, it will cover various processes, not only financial reporting, which is one of your main key concerns and responsibilities, but also other functions which are more and more under the responsibility of the CFO, which is sustainability reporting. Probably you started to think about this as well, and also governance, risk and compliance. Workiva is a cloud-based end-to-end platform which actually support companies in the reporting process from various kind of reports, from management reporting to statutory reporting, statutory financial reporting, including IXBRL tagging, from investor reporting and capital markets reporting for like prospectus, and of course sustainability reporting, and it has a great and powerful tool for sustainability reporting and ESG reporting as well. This is added on top of other features such as audit and controls management and enterprise risk management. You might probably think that I put this slide to intimidate you, but if you look a little bit closer, I think this is the reality that you as preparers or reviewers of reporting are actually facing. From various data systems that you collect data from, complex tools or simple spreadsheets, to preparing the reports and doing consolidation in Excel, preparing words, preparing slides for different reporting needs, to actually being able to tackle the entire process with due dates, with a lot of teams which need to get involved, with a lot of responsibilities which need to be shared in terms of preparation and review from different versions of the file. And I think I'm not the only one who has V1, V2, V3, V9, V9 final, V9 final, final, and so on of the same file. All of these are actually needed to be considered and managed by you as finance professional in a short time frame and under pressure most of the time. And this is what Workiva has been built for, actually, to solve most of these challenges, or almost all of these challenges. It takes data from various sources, like enterprise risk management, like core banking systems, if we are talking about a bank or a financial institutions, from operational systems like Workday, like Salesforce, even unstructured data from Excel spreadsheets or from emails or SharePoints. It integrates into Workiva. It allows for manipulation and preparation of the data, all to the end of building actual trustful outputs for various stakeholders' needs. And this is integrating the processes that we have been discussing about, the people layer, about collaboration and responsibilities, all the way to processes in terms of financial reporting, in terms of sustainability reportings, and in terms of GRC, or governance, risk and compliance, that we will touch upon in a minute. All this also translates into different capabilities that this system has. You can take, as I said, data from various systems, put it in Workiva using a tool that it has, Wdesk. Once the data is into the system, one of my favorite features of it is that actually you can work on this data using tools that you are very familiar with, like they look very similar to Word, to Excel, to slides. So change management risk is minimal, but in the same time, you can actually integrate linking. So if you change one single data point in this document, it will change all over where that data is needed and used. Again, another feature that I really like is that you can add into the platform different stakeholders which have different roles, like management, who is a preparer of the document, or board, who is a reviewer, or regulators, if we are talking about capital markets transactions, or even auditors who are doing live review of the documents with different roles that you assign at certain times. And in this way, the efficiency of the process is a real benefit of this platform. All of this, as I said, we see as relevant, and we have done implementations together with Workiva for these three main layers that you see here. Financial reporting, which you are probably the most familiar with, which means any kind of financial reports, including statutory financial statements and ISEF or IXBRL tagging. It has one of the best IXBRL taggings available in the market functionalities. Then it's the ESG report who can manage different frameworks like GRI or CSRD, where you can document the materiality assessment, where you can collect data. It has a module for carbon footprint calculation and all the way to sustainability statement. So again, I know that for CFOs, this becomes more and more relevant as we are moving from voluntary to mandatory reporting for sustainability in waves. And of course, the GRC part that Mircea will expand upon, but in Workiva, this means a lot of functionalities like internal audit management, like risk assessment, like matrices of controls, including SOX compliance, like enterprise risk management, IT risks, and so on and so forth. So if I would have to sum up of what are the main features that I am fond of for Workiva, I would say that this is this ability to integrate data from various sources but link them in such a way in which you can actually have data consistency and accuracy across different reports who use the same data. I would say it's the collaboration part, because you can add various people in the platform who can have different roles and to ensure actually the collaboration and live review and so on. It's the user friendliness of the interface, because it looks very much similar for the user, being it preparer or reviewer, as Word, as Excel. So again, little change management and more easy way to implement. And the modular approach. You can implement firstly the financial reporting, let's say, because this is what you need at this stage of this point of time, and then move further to sustainability reporting and ESG if you need to prepare this as well, or to GRC and so on. So Workiva is one solution that we are proposing with you, and if you want to find out more about it, me and my colleagues can share more during the lunch break or afterwards. But it's one of the pillars that we propose to you in terms of making the process efficiency and enhancing the experience using technology in a smart way. And I think I hand over to Mircea.
So thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here. Also, would like to thank you for joining today. I'll talk about governance, risk, and controls. And the reason behind that is, first of all, is at the end of these 4 blocks that we were discussing on processes, we thought we'd come up with something more easy. On the second one is that we don't really talk about risk that much. I mean, we talk about efficiency is like the most important thing, and that was also on the slide earlier. But, you know, efficiency comes when you have the right process in the right place at the right time, with the right people in the right place at the right time, and the right technology in the right place at the right time. But that relates to very simple things, is like you have business objectives to achieve, right? And for that, you're trying to put controls into these processes. How much is too much? And you can only know it if you really understand and evaluate properly the risks that you are actually looking at, that are you actually taking. But the risks part is not really discussed much. Yeah? It's more on the Romanian haide, you know, you have the, someone needs to take it, someone needs to review it, someone needs to approve it, and then you end up with a process that you think is right. And then you have also a second process, which is like the shadow one. And you've seen in Radu's presentation when he was doing the process mining. You've got the ideal process that you thought you designed, but actually you have a second process that you have to manage, and the third one, and the fourth one. And it's not the effort in the initially designed process, it's actually the effort in managing the shadow part, is the thing which is happening without you really fully understanding what's happening. So just going back to the risks, is how many of you do you think there are positive risks? So how many of you think there is a connotation to risk which is positive? Okay, silence. How about negative? Okay. So yesterday I heard my wife talking to my daughter saying, if you want to, she was trying to convince her to go meet people. And she said, I've actually took the risk and met your father. Okay, I didn't see much of a risk, but then the opportunity was that now you were born and you're alive. So there's a positive part. So, it depends how you look at it. You want to look at it from a negative connotation, or you want to look at it from a positive connotation. We all take risks, right? The fact that you are here, you took a risk this morning to spend your time with us, yeah? There is a risk that I can actually bore you to death for the next 5 minutes. And that's a kind of a interconnected risk in the end, yeah? So it's not even isolation. How do we manage this? So, if you look around from a business perspective now, I think what we see around in business is another layer of volatility we thought we were used to, but actually now it's supercharged. We see lots of changes coming from the opportunities to advance on technology. I mean, we discussed AWS, and you can actually move a bank tomorrow and kind of go conquer Europe. Would that have been possible a decade ago? Unlikely. That's enabled by the threats which are also coming with cyber. That's enabled also by areas related to supply chain and war. It's related to geopolitics. Yeah, we're seeing also this nationalist type of movement. We don't really understand how that's going to play in the bigger space from a business perspective. Yeah, so interesting enough, almost half of CEOs surveyed said that within the next 10 years, that's going to be a big change in the business model. Yeah. So how are you going to manage this from a process perspective? How are you going to manage this from the shadow thingy that's happening in the background? So we thought that, let's keep it simple. So there are kind of 3 main stages. First of all, you need to see the risk. Yeah? You need to sit and think, what exactly are you looking at? The second one is you need to take risks. I mean, it's clear that the organizations that thrive, the ones that lead in the marketplace, are the ones that do take risks. You cannot say, I'm going to do a business and actually I'm going to take 0 risk. Yeah? Risk appetite, it's unlikely to be 0 in a risk, in a normal business way, as well as for my daughter to go meet people. So, how are you going to go through these 3 areas? And I'll touch a bit more going forward. Yeah? So we discussed about challenges today, and there are very many. And I think we don't know if next year we'll see higher taxes, or that's going to come in 2026. Is it going to be VAT? Is it going to be salary tax? Is going to be what exactly are we looking at? But that's, again, not the first time we've been around. We've seen it before. We'll manage it in one way or another. What's important is to take action, to acknowledge it, to start planning around it, and to start managing it as such. Yeah? So you need to embed it in your day-to-day strategy, the ability to come back, look at risk, repurpose it, use it as an opportunity, and go forward. AI-led transformation. Yeah, everybody talks these days about AI and Gen AI. So this is an example of project that we've done for a company that went through AI-led transformation. And what we tried to do was, first of all, put the right governance in place. Yeah? There were many teams developing AI applications within the organization. You know that there is a new regulation, a new EU regulation coming up in Europe, which is called Digital AI Act. And it actually comes with very high penalties. They're higher than the GDPR. It's kind of similar to the GDPR, but even more tougher. So it's kind of taking this to the next level. think they're saying around 7%. GDPR was only 4 or 5. Yeah. So the question is now, if you are using AI, and everybody's using AI, we use AI in our daily life these days, how do you know that you are actually compliant? How do you know that what things happening within the organization is actually properly managed? So what we did was, first of all, we understood what type of AI solutions people were doing, what type of tools people were actually using, because this is also something that, from an organization perspective, many people say, oh, IT would know. Surprise, I mean, IT doesn't know. I mean, this is one kind of a true statement. And this is where people would need to really do proper assessment of what this governance would look like. The second one is, are we going to take the risk or not? And I think the answer usually is yes. I think it's very few occasions where you're actually saying, I'm going to skip, right? And then what you need is actually to make sure that the tools that you use are actually compliant with the requirements of the regulation, are actually providing you the right business outcome, because we have a lot of hallucination these days. And I think we've discussed in the break for a number of them, there are many others. So how do you know that a model would actually provide you the right answer? And there are various methods to do that. Usually it's kind of a threefolded. One would be a human review of actually the results. So you're trying to reduce the hallucination through the human thinking. Another one is actually deploying scenarios using AI tools, but which would not be LLM, so they would not provide probabilistic type of responses. And the third one is actually checking it with a LLM type of, so with another Gen AI type of tool, and trying to see from all these three dimensions if this tool is actually providing you the right answer. So this is an example of take risks. Yeah? And then the problem is, okay, so this is as of today, but how about tomorrow? And what's the governance? How should we actually manage this on a kind of a regular basis? Yeah? So you can go on a Gen AI story, on a Gen AI, and I try to give you an example of something which is very, let's say, discussed today. Yeah, but the same would apply for many other things, like cybersecurity. I guess many times you have a CISO coming to you and saying, by the way, I need this budget to actually develop a solution that we really need. How do you know the budget is right? In reality, there is a method to actually measure the cybersecurity risk from a financial perspective. You can actually put a number to that risk, which very few organizations actually do. Yeah. And another topic is that you've got many stakeholders within an organization. Everybody has its own view. And when you are talking from a CFO perspective, it's very important to understand the agendas of others. It's very important to be on their agendas to really support them, understand, and be able to really see, take, and manage risks. So you come up together as a team, as one. Yeah? So you're actually efficient in what you're doing. Yeah. And last but not least, it's very important to see the risk not only on a kind of a micro level. It's also important to zoom out from time to time. It's also important to zoom in from time to time. So it's also important when you're looking at risks to take these various point of views so you are able really to spot what exactly is the risk, what exactly are the controls which really respond to the risk, what is the risk appetite, how do you define it that would give you the best outcome that you're looking for. Yeah? Unfortunately, we talk very little about these topics. Yeah? And in reality, you need quite a few capabilities in the background. This is how we approach it. I'm sure in your organization you'd have the skills. So when you're discussing risk management, look also for views, point of views, and support from other teams. We're happy to support you as well, either moderating or just going kind of a day by day with you through the process. We do it also as a managed services. But we believe that the better you are at this, the more risk you'd be able to take, the more successful you'd be, and the more efficient you'd be. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mircea. Impressive. Quite a lot of tools in your toolkit. We have time for a couple of questions from the audience, and I'll warm you up with one. How do you actually pick a tool which is appropriate for the organization? I mean, is there a magic answer to that?
Not a simple one and not magic. So basically, I think, and as Radu also mentioned, you need to do a diagnosis. You need to see, because yeah, all these tools, they fit best for every scenario, but I think it's about customization and what tool solves your problems, but not only this, but what tool helps you meet your objectives. So basically a tailor-fit solution.
Thank you very much. I like, people say that those are consultants' answers. It depends. Any question from the audience? Yes.
I'm loud enough, but I do better use technology. The question is to the panel. So the platform you were talking and Monica described, it's like a technical question. The stakeholders, regulators, all other internal departments, because I would assume for many reports you will have many other departments that are not directly reporting to CFO or to finance, okay? So you have multiple users. Do they need all to install the same platform? Because if it's regulator, how they access the files? So my question is actually very long, but answer that like in simplistic way. So do they need to buy this platform?
No.
Or they just have access to the files?
Yes.
And also I missed that piece. Is that you who developed platform or it's the ready solution?
Okay, so I would start with the second question because it's the natural one. So Workiva is a strategic partner of PwC. It's a US-based company who develops this. They are investing this for 10 or even more years. They started building modules for reporting, started with financial reporting, and they are still developing and adding more and more into their capabilities. And they are serving in US 80% of the global 500 companies, so they are quite big, and at least one module of their solution is used by different companies, but also in Europe, we are seeing more and more interest on the financial reporting, on the sustainability part, and on the GRC. This is why we focused on this, but there are several other things. We in PwC are their implementation partner, and similar to other solutions that we presented today, we are helping clients to assess if this is the suitable solution for them, as Dinu mentioned, and then to actually implement it and implement it in a proper way and take over the process from us. And to respond to the first question, being a cloud-based platform, you don't actually need to have something installed on your computer. So regulators, auditors, and all the others important stakeholders who needs to have access to certain reports, because you won't give access to everybody in every report that you have, will receive actually a link, a user and a password that they will be set up in the system, and they will have access with roles clearly defined, so they will be able to review but not modify, and so on and so forth, in order for them to be able, for auditors to leave comments, for example, for you to consider as preparer and see whether you need to change something in the reporting and so on. So it allows this flexibility and live review, cross-functional cooperation in order to ensure an efficient process of reporting. And it's valid for financial, but also for other kind of reporting.
Monica, gentlemen, thank you very much. So we are approaching the end. We are almost on time, which is amazing for the topics that we discussed. We are approaching the end of the event, but not before we talk about how we prepare our teams for the future. And the ability of a company to attract and motivate people will eventually make the difference between success or less success or even failure. And I invite here on the stage with me Irina Teneva, Associate Technical Director with AICMA CIMA, and Denisa Cashu, the leader of our PwC Academy. And until they settle, similar to other functions, we need to prepare the finance staff of the future. How difficult would that be? I believe that we will address part of those questions or topics in the next session. So, Irena, over to you.
Thank you, Dino. Just even though it always feels like you're taller than you actually are, so compared to Dino, I need to adjust. Technology. The other way. All right. So, people, the jewel in the crown, or shall I say, the jewel in the cloud, just to be more aligned. And I'll have the pleasure to share this session with Denisa. So if you see her giving me signs, it means that I'm running out of time, which I don't want to do, because that's the last session, and I'm sure you're looking forward also to socializing. So I need to be prompt, but impactful. So let's see how I cope, or as I learned this morning, hide. Okay, so I work for AICPA CIMA, which is the largest professional accountancy membership body. And I'm here actually with Natalia, my colleague, who was asking a lot of questions just 5 minutes ago. And I work in CIMA's research and development team. So we are interested in people like you, in CFOs, in practitioners. To give you a feel of what we do, because most of my questions and answers today will be linked to our research, I'll speak about our future of finance research. It took us 2 years to do it. It started during the pandemic, where we did about 92 interviews, and then we traveled all around the world to do another 96 focus groups. And then we did a survey of 2,000 professionals in 68 countries. So I'll speak briefly about some of our findings from our in-house research. But we also commission research. So we go and ask academics from renowned universities to explore topics which are near and dear to the heart of CFOs. So today you will find me sharing some of those observations, for example, when it comes to the conflict in expectations towards the CFOs, or when it comes to business partnering, or when it comes to how we co-create with AI. So you will notice that my final image is AI generated. Probably they all look the same. And this is about a research which is still unpublished but has been already prepared. So I will have the pleasure to give out a couple of interesting experimentations. So the key questions that I would like to raise and hopefully leave you with some takeaways are: how do we resolve the ambiguities, the conflicting expectations towards CFOs? What skills are needed so that we successfully or efficiently do our business partnering? And last but not least, when it is good and when it is not such a good idea to co-create with AI. And all this comes from our research. So starting with the first one, I need to mention the author, to give them credibility. That's Dr. Paul Thumber from the University of Monash in Australia. So he went around and spoke to a lot of CFOs and asked them, is your role straightforward? Is it clear-cut? And I hope you will agree that many of them thought, well, when it comes to some traditional functions for financial management, it may be clear-cut. But when it comes to some newer things like digitalization, sustainability, business partnering, there's so many ambiguities. And then, how do we resolve those ambiguities? What Dr. Thumba discovered, we need a lot of leadership, we need coaching and mentoring, and we need to build trust. And of course, these are capabilities, these are skills that we develop throughout all our lives, and Denise will build on some of those ideas as well. So this is about conflicting expectations. Then, another question that we asked in our research, and that was a survey where we surveyed more than 2,000 finance leaders globally from 68 countries. And we asked them, what is the biggest gap when it comes to skills? And as you can see, there are some traditional technical skills like regulatory accounting, business planning, even ESG, but it feels like they are more or less being covered. They're still there, but we're tackling them. While when it comes to business partnering, that comes at the top. So there's a lot more we need to develop when it comes to business partnering. The same for communication, the same for leadership. So as always, it's a compilation of technical and enabling skills, soft skills. But from this survey, at least, what comes really strongly across is the business partnering. So this is why I'd like to spend a bit more time on business partnering and really come first and foremost, what does it mean? What is it, business partnering? We hear it a lot, and even this morning we heard it several times already. How does it link with value creation? What are the skills that we need and what are the challenges that we face? So in order to do that briefly, I'd like to share things that have been said by people like you, by CFOs. Let me leave you just half a minute for you to go through those quotes. So this is when we ask them, what does business partnering mean to you? And the first quote is from a colleague from Ireland, an Irish CFO, who said, well, I need to organize people, I need to get them together, set the agenda, and even steer the conversation towards value creation and then conclude. And that really took us by surprise. Because we were like, isn't that project managers that do that? To which many of the colleagues said, well, sometimes we need to do it as well when there are big transformations. Which, of course, triggered a lot of other questions. Do we have the skills to be project managers? Or do we have the credibility, the authority from cultural perspective to say that? Because I'm sure that maybe 30 years ago, if you try and do that, I'm the CFO, I need you to come for a meeting, I'll set the agenda and I'll conclude. Maybe many colleagues would have said, okay, that has nothing to do with me, goodbye. So I'll dig deeper into that. And then the second quote comes from a Slovak CFO that we interviewed. And she said, when we asked her, okay, what is business partnering for you? And she said, well, we used to be called controllers, but now it's a lot more about collaborating, talking to the business, helping them grow the business from inside. So we also found it interesting because in addition to that, we found that many colleagues find this conflicting. Who we are? Are we controllers? Are we the gatekeepers? Or we are the critical friends that help the businesses? I don't know about you, we believe we are both. We need to embrace them both. And of course, it's challenging. So there are a lot more interesting quotes, and if you would like to find out more, our research is on our website, and there's a lot of quotes they need. But to sum it up, what do business partners do day in, day out? Well, they interpret information so that the business can generate viable solutions, new options, new development options. They verify information. So our forensic skills are still very much in need. And these two, interpretation and verification, become even more critical in the age of AI. Because at least for now, we have that level of discretion that AI doesn't have. We know the business better. We know the big picture, but we have the granular knowledge as well. We drive ideas through, as my first quote showed. We need to be the gatekeepers, but we also need to be the critical friend. We openly support and understand the work of others, HR, procurement, operations. So we do not work in isolation. We work with others. We integrate, we develop the business from inside, and we need to balance between the commercial acumen and the efficiency. Of course, it's easier said than done. There are a lot of challenges that we face, starting with the most obvious, perhaps the time pressure. Time is never enough, and how you actually allocate it is a challenge that we will continue facing. The accuracy of information, we can only work with the data that we have. If it's suboptimal, if it's inaccurate, then it impacts on our business partnering and all other activities. Are we credible? Do we have the cultural authority? Are we trustworthy? And building trust is really a big issue that Denise will build on as well. Do we have the project management skills, the criticality and the empathy? And can we balance between commercial acumen and efficiency? Last but not least, as I'm sure you have all experienced, traditionally maybe our roles were more stable. The dynamism, the fluidity was not something that one would expect for a role in finance, but nowadays we need to cope with them. We need to expect them and be comfortable to be fluid. Now, just to put a finishing touch on business partnering, I'd like to bring it up a level because it's not unique to finance, to the CFOs. Every function tries to be a partner. It's how actually we have this culture whereby we are a hub of professionals that collaborate. Not that procedures are unimportant, prescribed rules, and I think Mircea was talking about data governance. Of course, procedures are important, but aside from that, how we collaborate. So every function is trying to do that, but what do we as CFOs bring to the table? How we support and develop this business partnering culture? Well, transparency. We provide accessible information. We give feedback about the performance, but we also receive feedback about our approach, our processes, our performance. We share workspaces. So that was really important. As I mentioned, our research was done during the pandemic and after post-pandemic, and a lot of it related to the hybrid working or remote working. And while hybrid working we found, at least in the countries we were present, 68 countries, was the predominant model, still our colleagues said that having this face time several days a week is really important for business partnering. Storytelling, so not just communicating, but communicating with an impact, telling the story. And last but not least, there are a lot of cliches how young people are not attracted to finance. It's not interesting. It's not a profession they're attracted to, aside from the financial side of it. But actually what we discovered, talking to students and early career professionals as well, is that When it comes to business partnering, it's really, really interesting. They're really attracted to that aspect of the role. However, we also hope they appreciate the challenges, because you do need some technical capabilities, some interpersonal capabilities, and certain level of organizational maturity in order to be an effective business partner. So very attractive for Gen A. And how we actually cope with the challenges of effective business partnering. I'm sure that what you see on the screen is not really something that puts you by surprise. It has been here for a while. I guess agility and creativity are coming across a lot more vividly these days, and particularly after the pandemic, communication as well, leadership as well. And everyone agreed that actually working in a hybrid environment, working in a post-pandemic era requires even though of those skills, creativity, agility, proactiveness. So that's the context. Now, coming to my final point, having covered conflicting expectations, having covered briefly business partnering, I'd like to share about an experiment that the researchers from Tulane University, you can see the names at the bottom of the slide, they have done this research this year, and they're now writing it up. So it will be published and available on our website in December or January. And it is about co-creating with AI. And I think we already moved on. While several years ago the question was, is technology making us obsolete? Now we are not worried about that. We know that there are a lot of aspects in which we cannot be made obsolete. So the question is how to effectively collaborate with AI. So that's the topic. Let's collaborate with AI. Let's see how effectively we can do it. And what we also know is that there are certain tasks that AI does brilliantly. So when there is a clear pathway, clear process, when there is huge volume of data, when there are clear rules, AI is brilliant, and there is no way we can outperform it. For example, because we are presenting on people, when this morning the conference started, I tried to count how many times people say people, capabilities, skills. And of course I failed. AI can do that much better than myself. But I know that it was quite often mentioned. So AI can do such kind of tasks. Also, there is research. Again, I have to give the credibility of Professor Noy and Professor Zhang, who in 2023 did research and discovered that when it comes about writing certain types of text, AI could be 40% faster and 80% better than humans. So there are tasks where we know AI outperforms us. But how about the really touchy stuff? How about tasks which require social intelligence? For example, conflicts. Can AI help us resolve conflicts? We know AI could be very consistent, could be very polite, very frustrating as well, but can it help us? So this research is about, can AI help us in this really touchy conflict resolution? So the researchers actually created a scenario within the finance team where we have the controller and we have the finance business partner, and the whole team is at a meeting where they're given the task to suggest strategies for improving client retention. And we've got the financial controller and the finance business partner, and they suggest different strategies. They have a difference of opinion, which is fine. However, as the meeting progresses, the conflict intensifies, the atmosphere becomes tense, and the productivity drops. And then the meeting ends. We've all been there, I think. And then the task that researchers give to participants: go away. Half of you will use ChatGPT, and the other half will not use any machines or AI. And tell me how to improve the atmosphere in the next 2 days before our next meeting comes. Then the answers were presented to a panel who were blindsided. Nobody knew whether this answer comes from a cooperation with ChatGPT or it's completely human generated. And guess what? When people were co-creating with AI, they give better, more comprehensive and longer answers. So we should co-create, even when it comes to really touchy stuff. However, what's the proper order? Who makes the first draft? Who is the initiator and who gives the feedback? So that's the second experiment, and I'm going to tell about it in a moment, because then Denise will step in. So is the AI doing the first draft when we give them a task, or are we as humans doing the first draft and then AI is giving us feedback? The answer is depends. Because what we actually want, we want speed, we want quality, we want consistency. But we also want people to remain engaged. And people engage when they put effort in. So we want people also to feel this sense of ownership when it comes to work. So from this perspective, the main conclusion of researchers is, if the task is non-mission critical, if it's, for example, to write a blog, let AI do the first draft and you give feedback to AI, you improve the draft. But when the task is mission critical, you are the initiator, because that'll help you maintain ownership, put effort in, remain engaged. So when it comes to strategy development, communication, people management, you are the initiator. Use AI to give you feedback, and that will be the perfect way in which you communicate. I have to step down because I don't want to set Denise for failure. Not so, she's lovely. But if you want to talk more about all this, find me or find Natalia during the lunch break or find our research on the website. Thank you very much, and speak to you in a moment. Now, over to Denise.
All right, testing, the speed, the distance. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. Since this is the last presentation, let me give you a bit of a heads up in terms of what's going to happen in the next 18 to 20 minutes. So I'm just going to see if I can... Does this... Okay, I'll see if I can just make a few steps around here, just to kind of place a few things in time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to position a little bit the AI impact on work. That's 2 slides. Then, obviously, we're talking about the future, we're talking about people, so we need to talk about the competencies of the future. So that will be 1 slide. We will quickly review. And then third, will be something on trust. I would like to share with you some insights from PwC's trust survey from 2024. Actually, rebuilding trust was the main theme of the 54th World Economic Forum at Davos this year. So trust, big issue, important one. We'll have several slides there. So we'll have AI, top competencies, and trust. And then what I would like to bring your attention to from these 3 is to what can support top management teams to actually address all of these in a sustainable manner. So I will start with AI in just a second. I'm just thinking AI is so present in the media, in the contemporary media. It's prolific. It's the equivalent of celebrity status, isn't it? We had the cherry on top of the cake at our management conference. We had an Oxford debate about AI. Is it a curse or a blessing? So AI is often both villainized and glorified. So it's villainized because Some fear it will replace human creativity and even jobs. And glorified because it has the potential to expand when used responsibly. It has the potential to expand creativity, improve efficiency, and innovation. So to bring this home, while there are fears about AI impact on work, there's also good news. And actually, from the Hopes and Fears survey, what we see is that Romanian employees have notably a more positive rather than negative perception. I'm just moving it away so that I can see the slides here and also have the microphone. Thank you for allowing me to adjust. Okay, so here's the data. More than 70% of employees in our survey agree that these tools will create opportunities to develop new skills, to be more creative at work, and to improve the quality and efficiency of their work. And I thought you might be interested that there's also an expectation that this will lead to higher salaries. Okay, so I said I had 2 slides on AI. That was the first one. The second one, and I think Johnny already mentioned this, thank you very much. It's alongside the same lines. I got this inspiration from the Harvard Business School, Professor Karim Lakhani. AI will not be replacing humans, but humans using AI will replace humans not using AI. I'm not going to go through all of the 5 points. You will get the slides, so you will be able to check in on this information as well later on. I think Irena also advocated, and it's quite obvious from everything that we've seen today, that upskilling is critical. And the good news from our Hopes and Fears survey is that most employees, 87%, say that they are ready to adapt to new ways of working. And many are eager to upskill. They see the potential in using generative AI to increase their efficiency. We've heard about ethical use, about the importance of governance. We've heard about business model reinvention in different ways throughout this morning. And obviously, disruption is here. One point I would linger just a little bit longer on is the trend in HR processes to move from role-based talent management to skill-based talent management. And obviously, this will require the right processes, the right technology in place to actually make that happen. And the slides are moving ahead by themselves, which is fine, because that's the next point I was going to address. So I said AI, top competencies, and trust. So in terms of top competencies, as it was also advocated by Irena and the research they performed, as we work in consulting, we like to get our data from different places, and it's great to see when there are common places, where there are overlaps and correspondences. So I'm just highlighting the top 3. We've had creative and analytical thinking, digital literacy, of course, curiosity, and lifelong learning. I think life is handing on a plate this continuous learning, whether we like it or not. Add curiosity to that plate, and we might actually enjoy it more. Add purpose to it, and we might find it even more meaningful and be able to do the storytelling that we need to do and to really drive those ideas through as business partners. And then, of course, we've got resilience. This is obviously often associated also with experience, with well-being practices, and there is definitely a need for flexibility and agility on many grounds. Again, in terms of the storytelling, in terms of driving ideas through, inspiring people and partnering with them, adding positive energy, adding positive outcomes and a purpose to the need for flexibility and agility will actually also support this resilience that we want to build in ourselves, in our functions, and in our organizations. So these are the first two. I will move on to the trust part. And there isn't really just a moral case for trust. There's a business case for it, with 93% of business executives agreeing that it has a direct impact on the bottom line. Actually, organizations viewed as trustworthy are more than twice as likely to be high-revenue organizations. And yet, a staggering majority, 94%, face at least one challenge. I think we've seen many challenges when it comes to building trust with stakeholders. We looked at data trust, but this is about the overall trust in our companies, in our functions. And as you will see, we like to balance. So our data shows also the impact, but also the opportunity in terms of building this trust. So 80% of executives in our study say that they highly trust their employees. However, the feeling of being highly trusted by the employees is not equal, is actually at 60%. So the potential of trusted leadership has never been more significant, but there's a disconnect. I will show you a few other pieces of data here. Interestingly, 90% of business executives believe that their customers perceive their companies as being highly trusted, when actually the reality is only 30% do. So that's a 60% gap. Because I like to balance, I will also give you a bit more positive information, which is actually, if we look closer to us in the organizations, the gap is not so big when it comes to employees, but it's still a gap of 18%, where business executives highly trust employees, whereas the other way around, employees who consider they can highly trust their employers are actually 67%. So, where to start? Well, we build on Mircea's connotation on risk. What we see here are the risks if we don't focus on trust, but it's also the opportunity. So the risk and opportunity at the same time is in terms of productivity, is in terms of quality of our products or services, and it's also in terms of operational efficiencies. And there would be a fourth line here when we look at employees, which would be 38% in terms of profitability. So, where to start? Irina was talking about the culture, and in our experience, most HR learning and development strategies, initiatives in terms of development are very individual focused. It's very much about individual development, which is great. And yet it's not enough. So what I'd like to bring your attention to, as I was saying, AI top competency is trust, and what can support top management teams, is looking at the concept of teams. Because trust is a team effort, and it starts at the top. So, despite the idea of a unified top management team, the reality is that these teams rarely operate as true teams. So even in the most successful companies, senior executives often struggle to really create effective collaboration in the top teams. And this can lead to frustration, and it can lead to inefficiency. And there are several factors contributing to ineffectiveness. These include individual agendas, lack of trust, and insufficient collaboration. While each executive may have their own priorities, those can interfere with the team's ability to effectively cooperate and work together to drive this business partnering, to drive this transformation for the performance of the organization and the sustainability of the operations and the results. And when these happen, we often see different degrees of drama. And for the sake of entertainment and to have a strong anchor for today's meeting, I'm using drama intentionally. And to say a little bit more about that, when I'm referring to drama in teams, particularly in top management teams, I'm referring to situations when the members of those top teams are feeling threatened in the collaboration. Maybe they are reactive, they are stressed, they are overwhelmed. There's all of these conflicting expectations, and that can lead to different degrees of drama. And while drama is natural and normal, it's part of being human, the impact in those top management teams can be quite high. So drama in top management teams is, I think you were using the word suboptimal, and it's often toxic. The good news is it's also optional. And most of what we do in the academy is actually working, aiming and working with teams to reduce or even eliminate drama so they can really focus on what it is that they're trying to achieve, and doing that not by themselves but in a team. Because with all of these pressures coming from all sides, it's so much better to work in a team rather than on our own. And actually, I'll just pause here for a second. One of my favorite quotes, and which very much reflects the dynamics, the drama that happens in teams, is from Gay Hendrickson, and it sounds like this: all drama is caused by unaligned commitments, by unclear and unkept agreements. I'll say that again. All drama, conflicts, unproductive conflicts, frustrations, stress, inefficiencies, and so on in top management teams. All drama is caused by unaligned commitments, unclear and unkept agreements. So that brings me to the essence of a team, and especially of a top management team. And also we can extend that to the teams that are driving transformation in organizations. The essence of a team is really shared commitment. Because when there is shared commitment, we've got a powerful unit of collective performance. Without it, the team is just a group of individuals who perform as individuals. But we all refer to the classic, the team is more than the sum of its parts. And that's why we're actually not often working on a team. Sometimes we're just in a working group. What makes a team is indeed that shared commitment. And the best teams take time to identify, to articulate a shared purpose, which they then translate into performance goals. Teams are about performance. It's not just about the touchy-feely. It's about getting things done in a way that is sustainable, in a way that drives energy in the rest of the organization. So the invitation is for leaders to really connect to that purpose, to really articulate it in a way that they can own it, that you can own it. And then translate it to your team members. People react to different things. people will be motivated by different things. So if you're able to facilitate that feedback, to communicate with your team members, first in the top management team, to see what lights a spark in that purpose for different people, then you can go on and work with the teams that you coordinate so that you can translate that purpose into the tasks, the projects, the goals that they have. And there's a nice story that I remembered as I was preparing for this presentation. It's a very, very short one. In the early 1960s, President Kennedy was visiting NASA, and he comes across one of the people who was sweeping up on the floor in one of the buildings, and he says, "Hello, what's your role here?" Kennedy asks, and the janitor responds, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." The reason why I'm sharing this story is because there's almost always a way to create a meaningful connection to the purpose in whichever area of the organization we are. And that requires that shared commitment from the top, that shared purpose articulated in ways that really spark that emotional commitment that is felt throughout the organization. And that goes beyond what AI can create. It can support you to maybe articulate that in a way, but it's still your emotion, the thing that lights you up, that will actually connect you to the people driving that transformation in your teams. So I was looking at shared commitment, aligning on the purpose and translating that into performance goals, and then there's shared accountability. And members of successful teams pitch in and become accountable with and to their team members. So this way, we reduce the drama. How do we reduce the drama? When there is no shared accountability, people take too much or too little responsibility, right? We associate accountability with taking responsibility or holding someone responsible. And I'm building what Mircea was saying earlier on. It depends what connotation you give it. A lot of people have a bit of a, well, let's just say there's different interpretations of accountability, and not all of them are positive. Most of them are not necessarily positive. But if we look at it from a point of view of a top management team, driving an organization, driving important transformation, important contribution to the society, when you're aligned under a shared commitment and purpose, when this is clearly translated into performance goals, then it's not about blaming, it's about claiming, it's about investing in one another's success, because it's not about the individual agendas and priorities, it's about the shared objective, the shared team. So then I invite you to consider this accountability as investing in one another's success. And I know we're approaching lunch, but I think we're good with time, so I'll just take 2 more minutes. To summarize, while the concept of a top management team is appealing, the reality is often more complex. So by understanding the dynamics at play and fostering the right conditions, we can enhance the effectiveness of top management teams. We can enhance the effectiveness of the teams that drive transformation so that they inspire, they connect, they make things happen. They drive that energy throughout the organization. And I let you think about what is your role as CFOs in this process. In the end, you will find, as I mentioned, you will receive the slides. You can do some further reading on the Trust Playbook for Executives. This is part of the PwC 2024 Trust Survey. If you follow the link on that slide, which you will receive, or simply search on the internet the title of the survey, you will see more details and recommendations for each of those bullet points. or if you're willing to invest or to risk investing the time and budget in enhancing team effectiveness at the top, we can support you. Thank you very much. And let's open the floor for questions for both Irena and myself.
Questions? I think we're now standing between you and lunch, so I'll be very brief. Just a few of my conclusions. I think technology, process efficiency, and people are changing at a pace which is even faster than before. But just to add a little balance, as Denisa mentioned earlier, everything else stays the same. I really hope that whatever that everything else is. I really hope that the event today gave you a few topics for your to-do list. It answered some of your questions and even raised some other questions, because this is all about what transformation is in the end. Yeah, it never ends. Thank you very much, and see you next year.